Do da do da do da do da do da do da do. Candyman. Oh, the Candyman can. The Candyman can, 'cause he mixes it with love and makes the world taste good. Do da do da do do. Do da do da do. Do da 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 do. Da do da do do. Hi, Margot. Welcome back. Josiah Baker. Oh, we've got a star-studded chat to begin with, that's for sure. Auntie Kahuna Mahuna. Nice. Aloha. Hello. I like your name, Jihad. Did you hear Trump had a jihadist arc recently? Saying praise be to Allah in his post. A streamy from Phoebe, part 2. Thank you, Arya. Thank you for the big welcome. No, I don't. Dude, you gotta look into it. Yeah. Trump jihadi arc. I'm sorry, man. Just call me a patriotic American, okay? When I see some politician threatening genocide and they end the post with praise be to Allah, that's jihadi shit in my book. Is that not? Is that not what I'm supposed to think of that according to the American propaganda? Is that not supposed to be the assumption that I take from it? You know? Sup, you're tripping? Nice. Amber is on Anarchy. Good. That's awesome for you, actually. You've told me a little bit about your situation, and I tell you, having been homeless and on mushrooms, it is much better than being homeless and not on mushrooms. Kamala would be doing way better. I'm sorry, but not on this issue, no. Not on this issue. Kamala might be pushing harder for the war, and she might be getting more approval behind it too, which is the scary thing, because Kamala would be doing it through the official channels. Kamala Harris was no friend to the American anti-war movement. I want to draw you? Well, feel free. Welcome back. Not on this issue, I mean in general. I mean, maybe, but the thing is, we don't need better. We need really, really, really good. We need actually good, not better, because Kamala Harris was not an advocate for the things that we actually need to fix the problems that brought us here. Like, the current Trump administration and its tendencies are a natural and predictable outcome of allowing all of the work that the labor movement and the anti-war left and the social rights movement and all of these different things worked for from the 1930s and before till like the 70s, 80s, roughly. All of that progress is now being undone, and that has happened under a cascading pattern of different politicians. It's been Republicans and Democrats, because the current iteration of the Democrats have been completely captured by billionaire interests. They've pretty much been such since the 90s. And looking to the DNC for some kind of savior is not going to work out in our favor. Kamala Harris might have done a little bit better than Trump, but would she have implemented universal health care? Almost certainly not. Would she have even fought for universal health care? Almost certainly not. Would Kamala Harris have fought for a complete end to student loans and instead funding higher education via taxes, or just letting the government fund it the way it does every other thing by making up money, basically? Instead of any of these leftist policy packages that have been popular for decades in some cases, that were demonstrated to be popular electorally back in the 2016 campaign with Bernie. Instead of taking any of these positions and running with them, Kamala Harris was doing this weak influencer, but not really influencer, even rapper and celebrity focused campaign that spoke really well to DNC libs that were already going to vote that way, but did not speak to the average person because their policy agenda consisted of things like, oh, we'll do a little tax break for the working class. Oh, we'll make the rich pay slightly higher taxes. We're not going to make it like it was in the 50s, but we're going to make them pay a little bit more. I guess we won't defund childcare. Basically, the Democratic promise in 2024 is we won't be Trump. If the Democratic promise in 2028 is we won't be the Republicans, if they win, it'll only be because of Trump exhaustion. If they win, it'll only be because of Trump exhaustion. They need to put up an actual progressive. And we cannot keep carrying the water for do-nothing Democrats like Kamala Harris. In my opinion, I just don't think it helps our cause. What does it do? What good does it do us to endear us? Like, how does it endear us to the average voter or endear us to the Democratic politicians when we just perpetually signal that we're going to do whatever the DNC tells us to and prefer whatever candidate they put up for us because we have convinced ourselves that that's the only way it can be? Trans president now? I really don't think that the identity of the president matters as much as their policies do. I know this sounds bad, but it's like, I would have rather had, Bernie Sanders in 2016, even though he was a codgy old white man, than Hillary Clinton in that same election, because Hillary Clinton was a warmonger. She was like literally so doused in fraud from so many decades that it's not even funny. She very clearly has an almost reptilian sort of calculating manner with which she examines the world and politics. She's not for any kind of leftist policy positions. She had to basically be drug over on some of those positions by Bernie. And only at the end of the election cycle did she even start to kind of push those points. So, that just goes to show you how, we could have had a woman president in 2016, but would that have improved anything? Would that have actually made things better? No, I just think it would have led to Trump in 2020 instead. Because Hillary Clinton was not going to end the drone war. She clearly signaled as much. Hillary Clinton didn't want to end the wars in Iran. She would talk about it, but she would also talk about how she wanted to go to war with Iran. So, as cool as it would be to see a trans president, as Tupac once said of a black president, I know it seems heaven sent, but America ain't prepped to see a black president. And he was right. For the record, he was right. This is Amethyst. I changed my name, but I support you and Phoebe. Good night. Well, nice. Are you a Democrat or a Republican? On local elections, state elections, I usually find myself voting Democrat. On national elections, I can't trust the Democratic Party anymore. So if there's a local Dem that I can vote for who's not completely drowning in APAC money, I'll vote for him. But that's pretty rare these days. Valid, outstanding. I mean, what is there in the Democratic Party for me at this point as a working class trans woman but disappointment? They like to talk about protecting people like me, but they don't actually work to do it when they're in office. Now, maybe some future iteration of the Democratic Party will be prepped to do that, but if you listen to what the consultancy class is saying right now, and since we're on the Kamala topic, consider the fact that Kamala is considering running for a 2028 campaign. After her disastrous election loss in 2024, after not being selected in a single primary in 2020, she is still considering running for the 2028 presidential election. And I think that that goes to show you way more of the Democratic Party's internal logic than anything else I could demonstrate, anything else I could use as an example. Margot the Margot Mommy. How many times let you choose your usernames these days? Please read this. Medicare for all can easily be funded with around a 3% increase in payroll taxes with no changes to the budget. Yeah, no, that's true, but it's also worth noting that that 3% in payroll taxes could be made up for in a lot of other ways, you know? Like we could change the budget. I'm a big advocate for it. I think that we need to reduce waste, fraud, and abuse, but the place I'd start with is not the food stamp system, it's the goddamn Pentagon. If you guys have any idea what the military industrial complex convinces our politicians to spend on, then you know that there is a tremendous, just an absurd amount of money wasted on these programs specifically to pay for the right of CEOs to be rich. We need to nationalize our military industrial complex completely, reduce the waste, fraud, and abuse in that system, and trust me, we will have a fucking plethora of money to use for other things. Instantly. We could free up $500 billion from the US budget right now just by reducing waste, fraud, and abuse in the Pentagon. I guarantee you. Normal jacket, $50. Military jacket, $500. Exactly. They can be made of the same fucking materials, but because one of them is being made by some sweatshop for the military and one of them is being made by a sweatshop for the American consumer market, one of them's got this crazy high markup. Wonder what that's because of. It's because of private contracts that are lobbied for by private corporations and the billionaire buddies that are incorporated into every level of our government at this point. And we've given it over to them. We don't even care as Americans anymore. I try to talk about class issues on this chat and look at the comments I get. Some of them, yes, some of you guys are trying to participate in the conversation and talk about class consciousness and talk about how fucked things are. But look at this. Nice 5 o'clock shadow. Cortisol 1. Useless fucking comments that have nothing to do with the topic at hand. People that are too stupid or too captured to care about the fact that their wages have been stagnant since the 70s. Their rent has gotten higher every fucking year since they were born. Their cost of living just keeps on going up. They're not worried about any of that shit. They're not worried about the fact that their grandma died 10 years before she needed to because she didn't have the proper amount of medical care. They flatly don't care. Thank you for the 10 gifted subs, King Bugs. You know I appreciate it. We have so far had no donations on Cash App, but if you guys donate $20 or more on Cash App, collectively, we will play the guitar behind us. You aren't even good looking. I feel like I could take that a lot more seriously if you had your face as a profile picture and not some random picture you found on the internet. But since you don't, I'm just going to assume that you're ugly as sin and people avert their eyes when you're in public together with you. I'm fired up about this shit, y'all. I'm sick and tired of the American people being so captured by regulatory interests and so captured by the media environment and the 24-hour news cycle that they don't even stop to think for a minute. How bad are things? Why did they get this bad? What series of choices have I and the rest of the American people made to lead to this moment? When groceries have never been more expensive, when the gap between the rich and the poor has never been larger, when rent has been climbing higher and higher for the last 10 years. I know it's always going up, inflation, I get that, but the rent increases have become completely untethered from inflation to the point where people are now being squeezed at such a profound rate that tons of people are finding themselves just flat out unable to afford rent anymore. So they're looking for other ways to live. They're looking to live normally, or they get some kind of car that they can live outside of, because at the very least, they can keep insurance up on that car. They can keep some kind of warmth going on in that car. They can keep that car with gas in it and relatively clean and all that for way cheaper than they can afford the rent on their fucking apartment. And when you're by yourself and you're alone and you're working a hard job and like slowly but surely, oh, well, I guess the idea of a consistent roof over my head starts to make less sense when it's literally that or eat food and live. I consider myself so freaking privileged that my family was lucky enough to buy land back in the 1940s when the state I lived in was basically still practically the frontier in a lot of ways. I am so fucking profoundly lucky that my great-grandfather had the foresight to put it in his will that we can't sell this land, because if I wasn't, I'd probably still be living in a vehicle to this day, or I'd be living in some shitty apartment facing the same squeeze that you guys are. That's why I talk about it so hard, because I've lived that way. When my parents were divorced, before they got back together, before things started working out to where I was like, okay, I guess I am going to be able to inherit the family farm. Great. Before that, I was living in an apartment, just fucking exactly like most of you guys are. Before that, I lived in my van for 2 years. And before that, I rented a house with roommates. I have been through the ringer with this shit, and I am so immensely lucky that at this point in my life, I'm no longer faced with this squeeze, but millions of people in America still are, and I care deeply for those people. Frequent popular vote elections fix the corruption problem in communism, yet in capitalism, it's inherent to the system. The percent must be bigger every year. Well, yeah, 100%. Like, frequent popular vote elections have never been easier, too. It's worth noting that concept has never been easier in the modern day with modern electricity and all that. Thank you. What's your name? Jay Miller for the clapping seal. Thank you. I appreciate that. See, we did get a Cash App notification. Aww. Margot paid $20 on Cash App, but they said this is not to be put towards playing the guitar. So someone else is going to have to donate $20 if you guys want the guitar, because Margot has given me a direct order. Thank you for the stickers. I appreciate it, guys. You guys are awfully kind. Oh, look at me. I'm a super chat. Hell yeah. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. But yeah, frequent popular vote elections have never been more possible under today's system. You know, I honestly wonder if some of the problems that like early communist systems suffered from couldn't be alleviated with modern systems of technology that can like consolidate a lot of that bureaucracy into automated systems that aren't prone to the machinations of human beings with their own specific individual goals and interests. I believe in abolishing the FDA. This will reduce the price of drugs. I mean, yeah, you can sell a fucking cancer drug for $2 if it doesn't actually contain any cancer-curing compounds and is just full of turpentine and rat poison. Great. Sounds like a great idea. Everybody can afford your medicine now. Yay! Are there any downsides? Well, you know, there's an equally good chance that you're buying rat poison and turpentine to the idea that you're buying actual medicine. You know, there's that. What a dumb comment. Yeah, bring back snake oil. Literally, unironically though, bring back snake oil as a solution to high drug prices. Conservatives will inject themselves with hydrochloroquine before admitting that the American healthcare system has a single flaw. Oh, you're sick? Oh, well, you must have just not had your colloidal silver ration this month, I guess. You have a voting machine in your pocket, even if it's via Obama phone? Well, that's kind of what I'm saying. In the modern day, it has never been easier to get regular, popular elections done. There could literally be an app, and even with our current electoral system, this could be a thing. There could literally be an app that's developed, in-house by the U.S. government specifically for the purpose of, like, doing these elections, and that could be translated into a popular election app. Like, it's a no-brainer. We should obviously be voting electronically. There are already European countries that do it this way. I think China votes like electronically through your cell phone. Like, I don't know. I know that they're not exactly a democracy, but you get what I'm saying, you know? When was the last time you were able to look down and see your own feet? I can do it right now. If my clothes weren't so tight, I could get them even closer. But my clothes are a little tight. Did you see how Trump gave Argentina like $20 billion when he could have used that on USA healthcare? Yes. It's just one of the many dozens of things that the Trump administration has decided to spend U.S. taxpayer money on that is not, like, helping the American people. Yeah, it's just one of a cadre of things. What the fuck did I do with my lighter? Oh, there it is. Okay. Play a song on guitar. We still got that $20 Cash App goal. I'm sorry. It is what it is. $20 on Cash App. We'll play the guitar. Margot sent $20, but she was like, specifically in the message, she was like, do not use this towards playing the guitar. And I am a river unto the people. Can you donate money to not play the guitar? Yeah. Yeah. Just specify that in the Cash App note. Guitar, please. It's wide. Dude, it's wild. We've got dissent in the chat. We've got some people that are like, play the guitar right now. We've got other people that are like, here's money to not play the guitar. A male in a female dress? What is this weirdness? I'm not wearing a dress. I am assigned male at birth, but female and male are sex descriptors, not gender descriptors. Like, dresses are not exclusively useful for female people. Female is also just as apt a descriptor for a person with a vagina as it is a dog with a vagina. You know, just because a dog with a vagina is a female doesn't mean it's going to look good in a dress. So you see how these words are a little clumsy? How maybe we should just abolish gender and do away with all this bullshit and stop expecting people to dress in a certain manner because they were born with a penis or a vagina or one way or the other? Just an idea. Just throwing it out there. You are not trans. Okay, buddy. Okay, buddy. Stay bitter, I guess. How so? He does not give a shit about healthcare. He does not give a shit. Trump does not care about the USA. He's making it worse, actively making it worse. Instead of helping Americans to get healthcare, he is actually gutting healthcare for millions of Americans. Instead of helping Americans get better roads and more public transit, he's instead not even examining the issue of infrastructure improvement, hasn't even considered it as a topic worth pursuing. Instead of trying to get America energy independent and trying to make sure that we move into the 21st century with every other country, he's saying that we're not going to build any windmills for 4 years. He's saying that we simply have to rely on the coal and oil industry, which, by the way, just happen to be some of his biggest donors. Funny how that works, isn't it? But moneyed interests only matter if you're a lefty or a progressive these days. Right-wing people love it. Right-wing people, not all of them, but MAGA conservatives actually love it when corporations throw their money around. They love it. In their mind, fascism is good, and the marriage of corporate and state power is a good thing that should be pursued and rewarded, not, talked shit on and discussed negatively. Didn't have gender with chat's parent last night. I love that. Thank you for the $2. I appreciate it. Funny you think you're a woman? I know I'm a woman as much as I know anything else that I can possibly know. I know that makes you angry and bitter, but it does not affect my quality of life, not one iota, except an improvement. No shit, it's survival of the fittest. Whoever can fit their pockets with the most cash. That's not how the world works. That's not how the world works. That's not how the species is programmed to work. Billionaires are an aberration. Greed is an aberration. Greed is an aberration that, for most of humanity's history, was punished with stoning. Just letting you know. I'm not talking biblical stoning. I'm talking some other cave person notices that somehow you've always got more meat than everybody else, and one day they notice your little stash, and they bash you over the fucking head with a rock. And suddenly you don't have no secret little meat stash no more. Yeah, that's how shit used to work. Greed was an aberration that was regularly punished for most of human history. It has only been with the advent of capitalism that we have come to reward greed outright. See, even in the medieval days, too much greed regularly led to kings getting their heads cut off. Too much greed would regularly lead to the downfall of empires as the peasants would rise up and the legitimizing systems would fall away. But nowadays, we have created legitimizing systems and methods of propaganda that are so effective that a lot of people aren't even aware of the idea that greed can be a problem. They've been convinced that their position in the evolutionary tree requires them to be greedy. But they don't see that cooperation is the model that got humanity so far. Cooperation is it's the whole premise that society is founded upon. You are using a phone that was built by people you will never meet, in a factory you will never see, in a country you will never go to. You're communicating through an internet that was invented before you were ever alive, programmed by people you've never met, many of whom you can't speak the same language as. You are talking to me through the distance of miles, and all of this requires deep, concerted cooperation. The entire society we live on is predicated on this fact. Everything. Greed is an aberration that should be shamed, punished, but never rewarded. Thank you for the 10 gifted memberships, King Bugs. I appreciate that. Oh my God, I'm not a Stalinist, dude. Russia was not a communist state. It was a state capitalist country at best. The communist ideals of the Bolshevik Revolution basically died when the anarchists did. And if you don't know that, then you don't know enough about the history of the revolution. Communist Russia died when the anarchists did. And the rest of its history was a history of state capitalism. The next members only stream is going to pop off. Well, now that I've got so many members, how about we do one? How about we do one? Well, that could happen now. That could actually happen. I'll get back to you guys. I'll let you guys know. By the way, tomorrow is the religious ode. So if you're a religious person that's wanted to debate me, I'm not going to answer your questions tonight. Hit me up with them tomorrow. There will be 2 hours worth of call-ins, and I'm very happy to argue with anybody. Basil on Shrooms, 1 month. Hi, Phoebe Pooks. Aw, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm glad to see you're a member. Member. Ooh. Who wrote the book of love? Take that fucking flag down now. No. 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 Nah. Nope. What time are you going live tomorrow? 6 p.m. CST. 6 p.m. CST. I'm glad you guys liked that one. I have a question. Hit me with it. If you plant a vegetable garden, what would you plant, homie? I already do. My family and I maintain a pretty wide variety vegetable garden. We've got tobacco plants, tomato plants, eggplants, loofah gourds, watermelons, peas, beans, herbs, fruits, strawberries, mallows, swamp mallows to be specific, marshmallows, in other words, Egyptian onions, regular onions, 2 different kinds of garlic. We got all kinds of shit. How is fascism in the weakest society? It's fundamentally supposed to create the strongest state by converging everyone together to be the state. It is the state. Yeah, no. That's exactly why it's weak. Because fascism, which, by the way, fascism is often hard to define specifically because every fucking fascist on earth has a different idea of what fascism means and what their ideal fascist society would consist of. So, but the tendency is towards things that are just fundamentally antisocial and anti-human. And the idea that fascism has of humanity is fundamentally incompatible with the facts. The facts are human beings like living in diverse environments. The facts are human beings do not like participating in acts of violence. The facts are that people don't like seeing acts of violence done to other people, which is why Israel's basically got no friends among the global citizenry at this point. These things are they are unsustainable fundamentally because they go against human nature. Human beings want to see their neighbors do better. They can only tolerate knowing that their neighbors are being burned in a gas chamber for so long before they start killing themselves en masse, or revolting, or just giving up hope. Like, look at the state of Germany by the time the war was done. An entire people whipped into submission and guilt. And good. They deserved it. They butchered people en masse for fun, to satisfy their own depraved animal urges. Good they were shamed. Good they were singing the I Was Not a Nazi polka. Every single German dances to the strain of the I Was Not a Nazi polka. All without exception join in the refrain of the I Was Not a Nazi polka. Goring was a crazy, we wanted to deport. Sing the I Was Not a Nazi polka. The Confederacy, the Reich, fascist Spain, even Mao's China. After the death of Mao, China changed quite a bit. After the death of Stalin, Russia changed quite a bit. After the death of Franco, Spain changed quite a bit. These movements do not have a tendency to last long because they go, in my opinion, it's because they go fundamentally against human nature. People don't want to just be an apparatus of the state, by and large. Once you start to find out what that entails, it starts to look a lot less appealing. The propaganda that is sold to you by a fascist state is that if you live by our lights and you're one of our chosen people, you're going to live this wonderful, awesome life that this state is going to accommodate for you. But what you actually find out as you get older is that you're just another piece of cannon fodder. You're just another, just another person to send into the machine, basically. You're most useful as a worker and a soldier. And once you've exhausted those needs, the fascist state will find a way to take you out. That glorious life that's promised to you is only for the elites, only for their families. And you're told to look up at that and aspire to it, and someday you might be chosen to be among their number. Just distinguish yourself in battle or work really hard. Sound familiar? Bro out here sharing clothes with his mom. Bro out here having a Phoebe membership because you've been subscribed so long that the algorithm knows you watch me all the time. Is their morality objective? Is there objective truth? The nearest thing we can get to objective truth is what is scientifically verified. Scientific consensus. It's the closest analog we have to empirical truth. And insofar as there are objective morals, I believe any objective moral system would be one, and I don't think there is such a thing as a truly objective moral system, but if there is like some kind of like there is objectively a good way to run society, for example, and like there is a pretty objective way to study happiness and to quantify it. And since we have those numbers, I think that you can conceivably, like, you can use the fact that we can scientifically quantify happiness, and we can also quantify what policies lead to greater happiness across the society. That means that there is a logical conclusion that you can come to with your morality if you don't have some dogma that's preventing you from addressing the factual basis. Nanbot with the $10. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Have a nice night, Phoebe. Well, thank you, Nanbot. I appreciate the $10. If anybody else would like to donate, please consider doing so. I appreciate every dollar and dime I make on here. For $20 on Cash App, you guys can unlock the guitar. Marco gave me $20 to not play the guitar, but they specifically said don't use it towards playing the guitar, which does not mean that you guys can't fund it. So you guys can do that. Just donate below. Anyway, get rid of this gifted membership. Cry me a river. You're the one who chose to say subscribed. Have you cut it off yet, Faker? I don't know. Have you decided to grow a personality and start being an actual human being yet? I would be extremely pissed to get a membership. No, you would love it. It would make your night. You would be jumping for joy. You'd probably tell your wife about it if you're unlucky enough, or I'm sorry, if your wife is unlucky enough to be married to you. If there's someone out there unlucky like that. In a classless society, how do you get doctors? The people who really fucking like doctoring do it for the love of the game and maybe high specialization or extra shitty jobs. Yeah, 100%. The people who do doctoring don't get into it because they think it's a great get rich fucking quick scheme, because it's not. If you want to be a doctor, it's because you have a genuine interest in helping to cure people. Because the study is incredibly hard. Like if you're like a working class person, right? Because if you're a rich person, if you're born into wealth, you're not going to look at doctor as like, or less, and in my opinion, you're probably less likely to than all of the other options. Like you could just go with your family business or become an accountant or become a lawyer, or any of these other things. You don't have to become a doctor. So like the main people who would be incentivized by the money aspect of doctoring would be working class people. And a working class person has to work incredibly hard just to even get into that position where they can get into the university and everything and get into medical school and all that. So it's like the amount of effort you have to put into it is not commensurate with the payoff, because like there's 12 years of school before you ever get to work on patients. And then there's another 4 years of residency. So I don't know, man. It just seems like a useless thing to bring up. People only bring this shit up because they want to defeat the idea of universal healthcare with pragmatic reasons, not moral reasons, because they know it downright sounds evil to say, I don't think that society should pay for your medical bills. Oh, yeah? Well, then maybe society should stop fucking hurting people so much. I don't know. It's just like a monstrous thing to say when you are willing to let society pay for endless amounts of military spending and shit like that. So people don't want to oppose it from moral grounds. They know that sounds reprehensible. So they'll try to make the argument that it's just impossible for some reason. But it's not. It's a lie. It's very possible. Thank you for the gifted memberships, King Bugs. I appreciate that so much. I wish we could give one specifically to John Blue. That would be so nice. Phoebe, do you think Kamala should run again or somebody else? Definitely somebody else. Definitely somebody else. I mean, Kamala can run if she wants to, but if the DNC allows her to course to float to the top, if the DNC allows her to be the nominee that they put forward, then the DNC is fucked in 2028. The only way they'll win is by Trump exhaustion at that point. I love it when the haters get memberships. It proves they're subbed. Exactly. That's why I like it too. That's why I appreciate you always gifting these memberships. King Bugs has been so generous. I appreciate you so much. Does Bugs ever speak? Yeah, Bugs speaks. Bugs just then. Do you have anybody else in mind? Rokana 2028. Rokana Thomas Massey 2028. Anybody? The libertarian right and the progressive left come together to fight war and bring America healthcare? Could it be? Let's join hands, you and I. Not Massey. Ew, that's a Chank take. Actually, I stole that one from Vosh. No, I don't know. I just like the idea of like a ticket that can bring in people, but that also has genuine progressive backing behind it. So I would have to, like, honestly, before I seriously supported like a Rokana Thomas Massey ticket, I would have to look more into Thomas Massey. I'm more or less just memeing, but, I like the idea. What does libertarian healthcare taste like? I mean, I genuinely think that a true libertarian should support universal healthcare because, like, any true libertarian recognizes that taxes are a necessary evil to fund government spending. Or at least that's the way it traditionally was looked at. I get that nowadays a lot of government spending is not, in fact, funded by taxes. Okay, I understand that. But, like, in theory, that's the way it's supposed to work. I will not vote for anyone that supports Israel. I'm the same way. That's why I joke about this Thomas Massey Ro Khanna ticket, Ro is a near billionaire capitalist. You need an actual leftist on the ticket. If we can get an actual leftist on the ticket, I'm perfectly fine with that too. Don't get me wrong. It's just like looking at the current slate of Democratic nominees, I'm not seeing a whole lot of people that I feel like I can trust. And I don't even really feel like I can trust Ro Khanna and Thomas Massey. That just shows you the sorry state of American politics, right? Yeah, we need to cut ties with Israel. 100%. 100%. We need to make Israel earn it. If they want our support, if they want our military funding, yada, 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 we need to make them earn it. Show that they can live peacefully with the Palestinians and their neighbors. Okay. Do you believe in God? No offense, just asking. No, I don't believe in God personally. I don't really care if you do, though. Doesn't bother me if you do. I know, crazy, right? As it turns out, I actually don't care about people's individual religious preferences until they try to take them to the state house. You want to start legislating on the basis of a religion, now we got a problem. But up until the moment you do that, you're all right by me. Did you watch Artemis 2 Splashdown today? It was pretty cool. I watched part of it. I watched the extrication after they had splashed down, just to see for my own eyes that they got out of there alive. And then I lost all faith in humanity reading the comments. Literally dozens of comments on both of the videos that I watched of it, talking about like, oh, this ain't real. This is an op. Psyop. Nope, not real. It's like, oh, man. Oh, God, dude. People are so captured by the 24-hour news cycle, like the combination of the 24-hour news cycle and media demagogues who are not responsible with their messaging, that they don't believe anything anymore unless it fits into some narrative of theirs. So if there was some overarching narrative that was benefited by the Artemis 2 launch and moon journey and landing and all that being real, then it'd be real. But because the conspiracy theory is fucking like, and I don't even know what the conspiracy theory is behind this one. I don't even get it. It's just a gut reaction to space flight. Literally, there are millions of people in this country who are legitimately convinced of a fake reality that does not exist, that is not reflected by science, that is not reflected by any understanding of the world that we have. And a lot of them are people who align themselves politically with people who are able to acknowledge science to a higher degree than they are. And that never enters into their mind. Critical thinking is at an all-time low in this country, and the results are showing more and more every day. You speaking of people being ideologically hijacked feels a bit ironic. You're quite literally living a false reality. What is false about my reality, Citadel Not Lost? What makes you more qualified to speak about the matter of trans people than medical scientists? Like doctors, psychologists, sociologists. What is your qualification? If a doctor had 0 student loans and charged $100 an hour, you would pay a fraction of what you do now? Yeah, but we'd all pay a fraction of what we do now if we just universalized the healthcare system. Most historians accept that many of the founders were deists. They were not concerned with Christianity. Yeah, which is why Thomas Jefferson had no problem clarifying in the Treaty of Tripoli that America was not a Christian nation, that it was a secular nation. That's why. So surely all of Citadel's opinions were formed in a vacuum and not just fed to them by others. Oh yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure there's no one that told them how to think. They're the only person out there that's got it all figured out. They didn't have to listen to anybody else or get their news from anybody. They just sat there and absorbed the information. The moral frameworks of our founding fathers was based on Christian beliefs? No. The moral framework of our founding fathers was built on the Enlightenment, which was largely a rejection and a critical examination of Christian beliefs. You do not even accept your own biology? Do you think that because I dress as a woman that I believe I have a vagina? What are you talking about? I'm not going to have the vagina unless I go through a few more procedures than merely putting on a change of clothes. Gender and sex are two different things. It really feels to me like you're the confused one here. You and the mental contagion that has hijacked your faculties has you believing all sort of contradiction towards reality. Once again, I asked you a very simple question. What makes you more qualified to speak on this topic than doctors? The vast majority of whom all conclude that transgender people are real and valid. Argument from authority fallacy? No, it's an argument from science. You're not able to address it because you don't believe in science. I do. Unfortunately for me, unfortunately for you, really, I believe in science, and that makes me, at least in this argument, better equipped than you are. What you have, ideology, a backwards perception of gender that should have died when Nietzsche died. On my side, Centuries and centuries of history, endless cultural writings, and 100 years of concerted study by the medical field. If you're so comfortable with yourself, gender, etc., why are you or what do you have to prove to strangers on the web? Are you doing this to reassure your choices? Most people comfortable with themselves don't focus all their time on their identity, they just live. I wouldn't focus all my time on my identity if there weren't so many people in my chat, like, literally obsessed with talking about it. I don't know. This is a chat-based live stream. This is my job. I sit on the internet and talk to strangers for a living. So if you would like the topic to be different, I suggest putting a different topic in the chat. Doctors also used to prescribe alcohol to people. As it turns out, science is a thing, and it improves on itself over time, which is why doctors no longer prescribe alcohol. As it turns out, we have actual medicines now. What was the process used to derive those medicines? Science. The same process that proved to the world that transgender people are real. Lifer 48, I'm not even going to dignify your comment by reading it out loud, but what you're saying is literally an anti-Semitic myth that has been disproven more times than I care to relay to you, honestly. You can hate Israel without hating trans people. You can hate Israel without hating Jews. But there are some people to whom everything reduces down to the Jews. And these people are fundamentally unserious. You do not need to consider their opinions politically. You do not need to talk to them. You do not need to engage with them. You literally should laugh at them and roll your eyes as soon as someone starts talking about the Jews. Literally, as soon as you hear that, you should turn on your heel and walk away while laughing, because it is the dumbest line of reasoning that has ever been conceived of, and it's an Israeli line of reasoning. It's an Israeli line of reasoning. What benefits the Israeli state more than the world actually thinking there's a giant cadre of anti-Semites out there that are ready to do violence against Jews at any time? So you have to treat anti-Semites like they are what they are, which is stupid, absurd bullshit artists that are trying to distract you from the real problems by getting you to focus on some marginalized community that just happens to be aligned with a state that profits quite a bit from that perception. I didn't even mention Jews. Yeah, because you're a pussy that's unwilling to talk about your real positions openly. You save that shit for Kiwi Farms and 4chan. I talk about what I believe openly on the internet on a channel with 13,000 subscribers. We are different. We are different people, fundamentally. Stop talking like that. There's kids on here. Well, there shouldn't be. I didn't select the I'm making kids content button. There's a reason Israel has always boasted itself as a secular state for ethnic Jews. It's weird, no? It is awfully weird, isn't it? It is awfully strange, eh? If the founding fathers' moral framework was influenced by Christian beliefs, should we not protect the Holy Land even though Israel is corrupt? Not based on that reasoning alone, no. No, I think that it's up to the people that consider the Holy Land holy to protect it if they want to. And I think that if that's going to involve doing violence against other people to prevent them from using those religious sites, then we have to oppose it. Why does protecting the Holy Land always look like bombing Palestinian children? That's the thing that's the thing I can't get through my head. Why does protecting the Holy Land always look like a crusade, or a missile, or a drone? Why does protecting the Holy Land seem to lead to so many apartment blocks collapsing on children's bodies? Well, it's because it is a crusade. I know. Well, that's what I'm asking Phil, though. Is just I don't understand why, like, this isn't obvious. Like, protecting the Holy Land is a pretty vague thing. Somehow I feel like we could protect the Holy Land a lot better if we weren't constantly battling over the Holy Land with drones, missiles, rockets, bombs, etc. Seems to me like if you're interested in the protection of the Holy Land, maybe people should stop fighting over it. And the biggest aggressor in that region is Israel. So, you know. So anyone can come and change America's beliefs that it was built on? Yeah. That's the point of a democracy. Yes. 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 If you can come to this country and convince enough people, then yeah. Yes. That's why we have an amendable constitution. It was meant to be a living document. That's why we have laws. That's why we have a legislature. That's why we have a democracy, period, so that we can iterate on our society. Smoking drugs, it's tobacco. It's hardly the most, you know. Well, you know what? I'm going to say something, and it's going to sound hypocritical as a smoker, but it's something that needs to be said. We do treat tobacco a little weird, if you think about it, because tobacco probably has the least effect on your everyday life in terms of, like, it's very hard to, I mean, it's not that hard to overdose on nicotine, but when you do, it's not like you go become crazy or something. You just get sick. Um, For the most part, though, everyday usage of nicotine doesn't really change your habits that much. I mean, it makes you grumpier in the morning until you have your cigarette, etc. Causes long-term behavioral changes. But I think it's interesting. We normalize nicotine a lot more than we normalize, for example, weed, because its um, effects, like the most profound effects that it has, are extrapolated over years. Like, you smoke weed, you get really fucking stoned right then. But, if you're only smoking weed like once or twice a day, over the course of your lifetime, your lungs are not going to be as damaged as a nicotine smokers are going to be. Um, Not only that, but like the long-term behavioral changes associated with weed don't happen to nearly as many people as they happen to with nicotine. I could go on and on, but we treat nicotine and weed completely differently. People act like weed is still this like stonery pothead drug, and I think it's all down to the fact that there's like an instant noticeable effect when someone is stoned, and it's a little harder to tell when somebody like, nicotine high or whatever. Um, and you don't like see people change their behavior that much on the basis of it, so it doesn't get this like hardcore association, but it does actually deserve a bit more scrutiny because nicotine use has been associated with cancer for a long time in a way that THC use is not associated. Smoke in general is a carcinogen, but like you can, like there, pretty much any form of nicotine can give you cancer. Whereas, like, if you're just eating edibles all the time, that THC ain't never going to give you cancer. Are you Jewish? No. Hmm. Damn, I really am all out. Well, that's the way it goes. Look at that, another 10 memberships. I'm going to see if I can... Well, I'm debating, because I bet I could get enough to smoke another bowl if I just, like, dumped out my tray onto something flat and then scraped all the stuff back up into the useful parts of the tray. You know, I bet I could get some stuff out of the nooks and crannies. But then if I do that, I won't have any tomorrow. Of course, I'm going to be sober at some point, so... Like, might as well just go out with a bang, right? Before the big tolerance break. I think I'm going to do it. Oh, ow. At the very least, I can see what I'm working with. Oh, God. Well, that's step one down. Okay. I believe I hear a train coming. Okay. Thank you for the 10 gifted memberships, King Bugs. I appreciate that a ton. You have to start doing some members-only content here soon. At this rate, we'll have just as many haters as we will fans. That's awesome. Riding on the city of New Orleans, Illinois Central, Monday morning rain. Super happy here in California. The tech billionaire choice for governor, Eric Swalwell, campaign is sunk. Donors and supports fleeing his campaign due to serious allegations of sexual abuse/misconduct. It's always the slimy rich ones. Yeah. That's that good old April supplies. April surprise. Thank you for the $20. I appreciate that a ton. We have done so well tonight. You guys have raised, like, I don't know, like 80 bucks, $100 if we count the 20 we got on Cash App that was specifically ordered to not go towards the guitar. So I appreciate you guys a ton. But yeah, no, I have heard about that a little bit. I haven't done much reading up into it, but yeah, I mean, things like this do tend to happen at the beginning of a campaign or towards the very end, you know? If you can snipe somebody at the very beginning before they get all that momentum, it's better, because sometimes people will choose to hang on despite the negative ratings and the bad opinions and all that, to the bitter end if it's like an October surprise. But if you set it up in April, Sally's Seaside Schmeck. Oh my God, Sally's Seaside Schmeck Shop selling scented skin cells. Sally's Seaside Schmeck Shops. Sally's Seaside Schmeck Shop selling scented skin cells. I can say that. One black bug bled blue black blood, while the other black bug bled blue. Red leather, yellow leather. Red leather, yellow leather. I do smoke a little bit of pot on and off, but I went 3 months without it, so I'm addicted. I feel like it can't alter your brain as much as other drugs. Yeah, I mean, drugs are not bad inherently. They are sometimes used for bad ends, or sometimes used to bad extents by some people. You can have a bad relationship with a drug, but it is not the drug itself that is bad. It is your relationship with it. It is how you treat it. It is how you go about your relationship with that drug. Christians aren't serious? I mean, I don't think a lot of Christians are serious, no. I'm sure some of you guys are serious. Can we please stop talking about drugs, please? You can stop talking about whatever you want to stop talking about whenever you want to stop talking about it. As for the adults in the room, we're going to continue having a conversation about whatever we want. Man. Can you not act like a child? That'd be nice. Oh, dude, you know what? I bet there's some pot at the end of this thing. Oh, dude. Let's see here. There wasn't much, but there was a little bit. There wasn't much, but there was a little bit. Now the real question is, can we get this plug back in there? There we go. I did. I managed to do it. Oh no! I'm going to ruin the plug. I'm going to ruin my stamper. There we go. Someone gave me an edible last night. It was good. Nice, nice. Edibles are the best. Edibles are, in my opinion, the most enjoyable high you can have. Honestly, in my opinion, the ideal experience is when you wake up decently early, get everything done, and then you've got the chance to take an edible, and then you've got like some people you can smoke with, like around the time the edible starts kicking in. That is a truly unique experience, because you start smoking with all your friends, and then that starts to get you stoned, and then you like the edible starts kicking in. So we should say screw the government and do it all ourselves. Seems a bit outlandish. I mean, it seems increasingly less outlandish to me when I look at how things are going. I mean, I don't think that we can do every single thing, ourselves yet. But I like to advocate for a world that is presently kind of hard to imagine for a lot of people. A world in which the systems of, how do I put it? A world in which the means of production and the ability for people to live and get healthcare and live decent lives, good shelter, all that are decentralized to a point where people on the ground are responsible for not just the actual labor that goes into these things, but also the day-to-day operations of them. I like to think of a world where, on some level, we do all kind of do our own thing. On a community level, we agree on things that affect us and are part of a greater whole that can move as a unit if it needs to. But I think that a world where human beings do have more of a say and more of a stake in the running of their own everyday lives is a better world. I didn't think anarchy was that complicated. A lot of people don't realize how complicated anarchy is. A lot of people don't realize how complicated it is. That's why I think it turns a lot of people away from it, because they hear anarchy and they think, "What? You're just not going to have a government, huh?" And it's like, okay, like no, state and government are two different things. Okay, yes, you're going to have some form of government. It's just not going to be based on artificial hierarchies. It's not going to be predicated on state force. It's a legitimate theory-backed position with lots of philosophy and thought that's gone into it for all the insults people will levy at us. Oh, so life would go on the same way just without having to deal with that. I mean, there would definitely be changes to people's everyday lives under like my ideal anarchist system, but I mean, yeah, a lot of people's everyday lives wouldn't change in terms of like it's not like we're all going to be living in mud huts or something. You're going to be like, let's say I could flip the switch on that world tomorrow and we'd all be equipped for it and it would work out and everything would be fine. You'd still be living in your same house. It's just that, that vacant lot in your neighborhood that nobody's lived on since they tore the house down 20 years ago. Now that's a community garden and everybody dedicates like 2 hours of their week to, keeping it weeded and keeping it watered and looking nice and all that, and everybody gets to share in the produce that's created with it. Instead of you working at a company, you work at a cooperative where you are an equal share owner, like with everybody else that works there. What does anarchy improve for regular Joe Schmo? I mean, like a functional anarchist system would allow for every human being to have healthcare. Like, with the modern technology we have today, it's never been easier to decentralize these things. So, instead of having a private healthcare system, you would have a healthcare system that is paid for by the collective effort of everyone in your society. Instead of having shitty roads that are left up to the decision of whatever rich person happens to live on that road and their willingness to lobby for a better one. Instead, there is a basic guiding principle that drives society that says we take care of things, we make sure that stuff stays maintained, and we all put in effort to the best degree that we can, whether that's um, through some sort of highly advanced system that uses taxation or social credit or something like that to manage the collective input, or whether that's by the old Southern model of just having everybody work on the roads for 2 days a week. Or not 2 days a week, but 2 days a year. That I think we would have to figure out as we were building the system. But even a socialist world improves life for the average Joe Schmo. Even a socialist economy improves life by deprivatizing the healthcare market, therefore making healthcare not just affordable, but accessible to everyone in a society. You provide higher education on the basis of the collective labor we've already discussed, that, paying by the government through taxes, whatever, however you want to put it, that higher education improves people's lives, not just because they have better job opportunities and all that, which are improvements that you would see in a capitalist society, socialist society, regardless, but in an anarchist society, education would be provided to everyone, not on the basis that it's going to necessarily make you better for better jobs, but that you're going to improve yourself as a person. You're going to learn more. You're going to be able to use um, different tactics to um, achieve the goals that you have in life. You're going to be able to examine things more deeply about a specific topic than you would have been otherwise. There's lots of improvements I can imagine, and I guess it just depends on what model of society takes that follows some kind of, because there's lots of different conceptions about how an anarcho-syndicalist society takes shape and what life looks like on the ground. But in my mind, it involves way more localized food production, um, highly decentralized worker cooperative model of economics, a prioritization of people over profit. Why destroy what our ancestors of 250 years built just for self-gain? Well, they built the system that exists is intrinsically built towards self-gain. I'm talking about improving the collective lot of all of humanity. I'm talking about a system that does not prioritize profit, but rather puts people first. I'm talking about policies that would use the labor that we already put into society and redistribute some of that value into the collective good and eliminate the bourgeoisie class that exists only to leech profits. Socialist still learning here. Traditionally, I think anarchy is anti-archy, as in anti-hierarchies, especially unjust ones. Yeah, exactly. The idea is that everyone is an equal participant in society. You can't simply be, um, you can't simply be, like, for example, cops are a great example to use when trying to explain how an anarchist thinks the world should work. Under an anarchist society, cops would be given no deference or fucking immunity whatsoever. You would be held to the exact same standards of behavior as anyone else in society, and you would be expected to never kill people unless someone is actually posing a direct danger to your life. And if anyone did do that, they would be punished for murder. That would be an example of how anarchist policing might work. Furthermore, there would be no capacity in a functional anarchist society for that for that use of force to be levied towards capital interests or individual self-interest or anything like that. It would be um, specifically oriented towards keeping people from hurting each other and to what degree contracts exist in a socialist or anarchist society, enforcing contracts. But even then, I'm critical of that function. Even then, because honestly, um, the best society would be one that does not require people to make shady or possibly too lucrative contracts that encourage people to be underhanded and fraudstery and shit like that. Ideally, a good society would orient things such to where fraud becomes a very rare exception and a direct indicator of greed. I vibe with anarchists, but I believe in the power of the state to organize big things and solve big problems like climate change. Want that luxury gay space communism? Well, the thing I always talk about is anarchist communist solidarity. This idea that we may have two different visions, I guess, two slightly different visions of how the world would look or whatever, but we still fundamentally value the same things. We want people to have healthcare. We want people to be able to travel where they want to go. We want people to be able to learn more if they want to learn more. We want people to have positions in society that are rewarding and captivating. We want people to have lives they can feel good about and value. Yep, solidarity. 100%. Any more book recommendations? I just purchased the mutual aid one. I don't know if you're talking to me or somebody else. I want everyone's point of view. I don't care who you are or what you believe. I just want to know why. I mean, I get that. I appreciate that, and I like the discourse. I just think that human beings, in general, people on the bottom that are actually involved in the everyday goings on of the world, I just feel like normal people know a lot more about the function and um, running of everyday society than we're given credit for. Because we're the ones who actually have to run the machines and stock the shelves and drive the cars, yada, yada, yada. So I just think that it makes a lot more sense for workers to be in control of the places where they work, because to work is just to live, obviously. I mean, you have to do something to keep living. And in a complex society, you're going to need, the division of labor and all that, at least to some degree, if you want to have like a futuristic, techie kind of society like we have. And under such auspices, modern society wanting to keep those conveniences and that modernity, it would be to the collective of humanity's benefit. The majority of humanity, being in the working class, would benefit from a society that was, post workers' revolution. We would benefit from owning the means of production by eliminating the profiteering class, basically. The ownership class who exists only to extract rent and profit. Is this taught in schools or no? Well, who? Marx? No, no. Yeah, I mean, you can read some Marx if you want to. Karl Marx is a German historian, economist. A lot of people say, he's the father of communism, but actually, he was just describing a movement that he saw rising, that he did morally agree with, but he also saw it as a historical inevitability. Karl Marx's analysis, basically, of history and his prediction of the future is like, well, it seems like these class dynamics pop up a lot. It seems like eventually the underclass takes over the upper class, and the way things are situated right now, the underclass is a massive collective of humanity, and that might be the last class dynamic shift. He's a really interesting fellow to read about and an interesting fellow to read his works. I don't know how much of his unionizing advice is still necessarily good today, but as far as like his prescriptions for what should happen, I think that a lot of them are still every bit as relevant. And as far as his descriptions as to what had happened up to that point and what was happening, they're spot on. He was a very like he was a very skilled historian in that way. Hey, Big T from Barstool. I wish I was paid that much. No. I'm not taking schooling on philosophy, no offense. I just like doing my own personal research without a biased mind. I don't blame you there. I mean, if you've ever got the opportunity and you find out that there's some community college near you that's offering a really cheap philosophy course, it might not be a bad idea just because you're going to get like 6 months worth of book recommendations. Like you'll get a bunch of book recommendations. It will be with a mind that's a little biased, but it's not like if you're capable of critical thinking, you can sort through that bias and arrive at what you believe about the situation. Not saying I personally do not believe you have to take a philosophy course to understand this shit, but I also recognize that it can be useful in some cases. But yeah, look into Karl Marx, and there's also another guy you should look into. Um, I can't remember his first name, but his last name is Proudhon. Proudhon. And somebody can correct me if his name is Proudhon or something. God is queer and has infinite genders. Thank you for the $5. I appreciate that. By the way, I'm $20 away from the guitar. If you guys want to hear some guitar music, please donate $20 or more on Cash App. Cash App only for the guitar goal from now on. Maybe not from now on, but I thought you were recommending it. My bad. I mean, I'm soft recommending it. I'm just soft recommending it, okay? I'm just saying if you get the opportunity and you don't feel like you're going to be inconvenienced by it, it might be a good opportunity for you to learn more. It's not necessarily going to, I mean, it'll help you with some things, I guess, in life, but there is a utility to higher education that exists beyond jobs and all that shit. But I understand how in the current American education system, privatized college, all this shit, I understand that it's hard and oftentimes pretty expensive. So that's why I'm saying if you ever find out that there's like a night course on philosophy at a college near you, go ahead and take it. What, like $200 a semester? Go ahead and take it. You'll do nothing but learn. Even if they have like their own particular biases they're coming at it from, you'll get introduced to the basics. And a lot of the basics are what you need to like really dive in deeper to some of these later figures that extrapolated specific economic theories or specific social theories. John Lennon's writings are so important to this day. He had great strategy and understood people well enough to know who was reachable and who was a slave. I'll have to read. I'll have to read up on him. In general, I don't like the idea of excluding some people from the possibility of being reached to, or being reached out to, or talked to. But there can be some utility to it, I'm sure. I'll have to read up more about it. Thank you for the gifted membership, King Bugs. Holy shit! Look at that. Look at all those gifted memberships. Job. I'm working my job right now. Cuba did it too. Not everyone was part of the revolution. Yeah, I mean, but look at where Cuba turned out, like, I don't know, man. I know that most of Cuba's problems have been caused by, like, what's the word? American sanctions. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word sanctions. I know that most of fucking Cuba's problems have been caused by sanctions and shit like that, but it's like, on some level, I as an American just don't like the idea of people having to get purged or excluded or whatever because it didn't hold the right position. It just, I don't know, man. It rubs me the wrong way. I like to think that there is some way that we can bring about a better world. That doesn't involve that. Stop gifting me memberships, you feeble-minded individual. I'm not the one gifting you memberships, and you're not going to call King Bugs feeble-minded. John Blue, you have to be subscribed to get that membership. Watch, we'll make sure John Blue gets in on the round of memberships. Watch this. There we go. Haha. King Bugs is crazy. There's a reason why we call him King Bugs. His royal coffers flow forth. Alrighty, let's get blazed. Can I be the jester? I think you pretty much are already, Philly Matt. I mean, you've been entertaining us all night. Yeah. King Bugs is actually a front for the IRGC. I'm obviously like state-funded Iranian propaganda, which is why I talk so much shit about the Ayatollah, you know? I got to keep up the premise that I'm an ostensibly pro-Western speaker, but, you know. Trust me, I get my Telegram messages every morning. I just remembered that I now live in a fucking surveillance state where the Donald Trump administration is actively looking to round up leftists that it thinks are domestic terrorists. That's a joke. I'm joking. I'm not actually funded by the fucking IRGC, okay? Just to clarify, if any Trump administration official tries to use this video against me. To my knowledge, I'm not funded by the IRGC. Yes, thank you immensely, King Bugs, for the generosity. April is going to blow the fucking doors off of any other month. Honestly, like, I'm not even going to lie to you guys. April is shaping up to be my highest earning month ever in life, period. Like, I'm not even joking. I'm immensely grateful. I mean, at this point, I'm almost making regular wages, you know? Not, like, better than that, actually. So can Trump redeem himself in your eyes? He could. That's the thing. I'm an empathetic and kind, and when it comes to politics, a results-based person. Like, ultimately, people don't like this about me, I don't think. I think some of my regulars just look past it because they see that there is a heart of gold that belies it. But I, I, I consider myself to have a bit of Kissinger in me, and to the degree that America is a country that has a unified interest on the world stage, I think that, and to the degree that America is a unified presence that has like an internal political identity, I think that we need to prioritize results above all else. I would be perfectly willing to say, all right, well, at least he did some good stuff with the end of his term if he would do these three things. Here's what he would have to do to redeem himself in my eye. Number one, immediately end the Iran war long term with an actual peace plan that includes Israel stopping their attacks on their neighbors and the attacks on the Palestinians. Number two, universal health care. I'm sorry, but a Republican could probably do it easier than a Democrat could, honestly, if there was political will for it. And three, legalize weed like he's been pointing to this whole time. Like, he already signed an executive order to push it through. I know for a fact that if he was really dedicated to it, and if he really wanted to change the American people's perceptions of him, he could not only do those two things, but also, as just a final parting gift, be like, I'm firing all the people involved and keeping weed illegal. I'm sick of it. It's annoying. I don't like alcohol and drugs, but it's hypocritical that we sell booze and we don't sell weed. That wouldn't redeem him. He'd have to erase all his cuts too. Eh, yeah, I mean that could be another thing. But like, that's the thing. Honestly, wouldn't it kind of redeem him if and we're talking about a crazy hypothetical fantasy scenario. He's obviously not going to do one of these things, let alone all three. But like, if he did implement genuine universal health care for every man, woman, and child in America, and legalize weed at a federal level, and end the fucking forever wars in the Middle East, if he could actually do all three of those things, I mean, yeah, the cuts to USAID suck, but maybe the next Dem will have a lot easier time implementing them now that people aren't so adverse to the idea that progressive ideas can, you know, can work. I don't know. It's just an idea. A guy asked me a question and I'm trying to answer it honestly. There are things that he could do that would, if not redeem him, then certainly make me say, yeah, well, he did some good things. There are things that could make me say Trump was a mixed bag. Right now, Trump is a horrible, evil piece of pedophilic shit. And I'm going to keep saying that as long as he continues being such a fucking profound fuck up. But if he did enough to even try to offset the evil, then at least we could talk about him like he's a mixed bag. How would he redeem himself from the lives he's taken and the cruelty he's inflicted? That's why I kind of changed my language from redeeming himself to being a mixed bag. Because, yeah, he's never going to redeem himself. I mean, redemption is kind of a silly concept in general. The idea of redemption is you do a bad thing, and then through some vague combination of action on your part and forgiveness on the part of others, you come to a place where you're morally absolved. And I guess it like does underlie a lot of systems in our society, but it's not actually that like stringent a concept. Did I hear that Mexico is passing public health care? Yeah. Yeah, Mexico. Good luck on the rest of the stream. The left is best. Nice. Thank you. I appreciate it. Right now, the U.S. spends $76 trillion on healthcare over 10 years. Universal healthcare would cost $32 trillion over 10 years. Yeah, literally. Oh, shit. Oh, God. It would save us money. It would save us immense amount of money, actually. I'm sorry. I know that sounds gross. I think I overproduce mucus or something and it just drips down into my throat and it sucks. This is for you to listen to Dogtown by Harry Chapin. Okay, I'll listen to Dogtown by Harry Chapin. I'll do it. Thank you, Margot. I appreciate it. And someone else paid me $10 for thank you for being love in the universe. Aww. Yay. Thank you. That's so sweet. Heck yeah. Heck yeah. That's so sweet. Thank you, guys. I love that song. I think you will too. Dogtown. Harry Chapin. Henry Chapin? Dogtown Chapin. I can remember. Dogtown Chapin. Dogtown Chapin. It's inflammation for soft palate and postnasal activity. Speaking from about 12 years of heavy cannabis use. Ew. Hmm. Did you just break my smoking addiction? No, I want to get high too bad. But that's pretty fucked up. Checking my soft palate now. I know all of us are just like, you know, dude, what? What do I do? What do I do, Nambot? What do I do? How do I fix it? You make me laugh, sis. I'm glad. I'm glad. Is it preventable, Nambot? All the stoners are just like, wait, hold on, what? Your face was priceless? I mean, it was the face of disgust. It was like, oh, I'm doing this to myself? Not good. Yeah, I have a membership. What the hell? Yeah. King Bugs has been gifting them all night to the tune of 10 at a time. Vapor quit. Damn. I vape. Never mind. I'm good. Fuck. Does Dab do it? Okay. Well, that's like 3 years was like chain dabs after work until bedtime. Man, y'all guys living the life. We're talking all this shit about smoking, and here I am about to take another hit. It is what it is. Listen, I know smoking is not good for me, but at least now I have a plan of action. I wonder how occasionally you have to smoke to not get that. Because I like smoking blunts too much to want to just put it down, man. I just do. When I'm socializing with people, I like to smoke a blunt. If everybody in the circle's a stoner, let's smoke a blunt. My soft palate is nearly non-existent after having my tonsils removed. Also, what the fuck is up, Femboy Stormtrooper? I haven't seen you in here in forever. But yeah, that is wild. If it makes you feel better, I would still 100% smoke weed if my job allowed me to, but those DOT randoms are real. Now I know what you do for work. Or at least I have an idea. I quit weed, then tried smoking again, and now it just makes me very anxious if I smoke too much. That's apparently a pretty common thing that happens to people that start smoking pretty young, and then stop for a long time, and then start back up. Of course, what I would say is that I remember, like, I've had a few tolerance breaks since I started smoking when I was like 21 or so, and 19 or 20 actually, I guess, but still, I've had a few tolerance breaks since then, and every time when I came out of the tolerance break, started smoking again, I would definitely have some paranoid sessions. But, I don't know. For me, I really don't get paranoid unless I'm already paranoid when I start smoking or if I'm like alone. But if I'm with other people, I usually don't get paranoid. I usually don't get like anxious and shit, but everybody's different. People's bodies react wildly different to the same thing, and your body does change how it reacts to weed over time, especially if you stop using it. Public transit bus driver. Okay, cool. New job taking up most of my free time. I work in AT&T sales now. How have you been? Oh, I'm good. I'm good. Glad to know you work in sales now. I hope that job's working out for you. Based, yeah. Same, Marco. I don't know what panic attacks are, but I guess I'm freak out when that's it. Yeah, I mean, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, a panic attack feels like freaking out, but physically painful, basically. Japan's train system, we need high-speed rail in North America. We really do. And we also have an interstate highway system that would be perfect for building high-speed rail, like within or along the margins of or whatever. A similar thing happened to my partner where he quit weed for his job and it doesn't quite hit the same for them. Yeah, that can happen. I don't know why. I don't know why your body will pretty much handle weed the same way as long as you stay smoking. But if you stop smoking and then you pick it back up again, it sometimes it'll affect you the same exact way, and sometimes it changes a lot. King Bugs, $50 out of nowhere. Holy mackerel! Thank you so much, King Bugs. Look at that. Holy shit. $119 in SuperChats today. You guys have been so fucking generous. I don't even know. Like, I don't know what to say. Just thank you guys. I love weed so much I push through. There's a trooper. There's a trooper. Only got on the production floor a couple weeks ago and getting more sales than most tenured agents. Nice. That's good. I'm glad. Keep it up. Keep it up. Whatever's working, pay attention to it and keep it up. Beautiful. Hell yeah. Beautiful indeed. King Bugs, if you bought my loyalty. You have bought my loyalty. Yes. Yes. You know, I was just thinking when you said bought my loyalty, it reminded me of something that happened at the Deep Fat Fried meetup. Something that I am very happy to say apparently left enough of an impression on TJ that he remembered the interaction. And he remembered the line that I used. So Pranav came up to TJ. Pranav's a member of the DFF community, of course, and Pranav came up to TJ and was like, "What can I do to buy your loyalty back or something?" And TJ thought for a second. He was like, "Give me a drink." And I was like, "I haven't had to buy a drink here yet. About how much is that?" And he was like, "Oh, like $13. I don't know." I was like, a man whose loyalty can be purchased for $13, his loyalty comes pretty cheap, no?" And TJ was like, "So?" And I was like, "Well, you're not buying much." And he was like, "So?" And I was like, uh, and then he leaned down and he wrote "so?" on my shirt and walked away, grinning. Phoebe isn't a zigzag girly. She's on White Owls or some shit, Nambot. Yeah, I'm a Swisher girl, actually. I'm not too good for zigzags. I just don't prefer rolling with them. I think ditching the blunt wraps could help a lot. I always hated smoking blunts because they were so harsh on my throat. Get you some zigzags. Well, I rarely smoke blunts. Blunts are literally a very occasional thing. I mean, you'll notice, right? It's pretty rare to actually see me smoking a blunt. For the most part, I smoke out of a pipe. Honestly, I think if I wanted to reduce the strain on my throat maximally, I could get me a tower bong, one of those little 2-foot deals that you can put some ice in the top of, and that would be a way to chill the smoke out and probably make it a little less harsh on the throat. But I quit right after I hallucinated on shrooms. I feel like that has something to do with it also. Yeah, that definitely probably affected your psychology. Um, Cannabis and mushrooms do have some pretty interesting interactions. I've always liked to smoke weed while I trip, but some people aren't like that. Some people don't like to mix them. You can roll the goofiest, fattish, outlandish cones with real rolling papers. I know, but I don't like those. You know what the problem is with all those, Nanbot? And I've known some people that could roll like a cross joint or something like that. You know what the problem is with them? All of them? None of them smoke evenly. I've smoked a cross joint. They suck. I've smoked a cross joint and they're lame. They suck. They're bad. They're not good. It's a gimmick. I like it. I'm glad I got to smoke out of a cross joint, but if I'm just looking to roll up real quick for for my friends or whatever, like, fucking hand me a swisher. That's my thing. Waste weed. That's kind of how I feel about it. Like if you're at a rainbow gathering or something and there's lots of weed going around and you're trying to show off or not even trying to show off, but just trying to be entertaining or whatever, right? Maybe there's an excuse for it, like a weed festival or a rainbow gathering or the gathering of the juggalos or something. But an everyday smoking circle, dude, I'd be pissed off if I threw in for a joint. And this is not to say that there's anything wrong with it, but I'd be kind of like annoyed a little bit if I threw in like 2 grams or whatever on a roll, and then I find out as it's getting passed around that it's fucking like, it's a gimmick joint. Now, if we talk about that beforehand and I came over with an ounce, that's one thing, okay? All right, maybe we can have a gimmick joint. But, for the everyday smoke circle, I just personally feel like blunts are best. And if you're going to roll a joint, then either a regular cone or a regular rolling paper. The gimmicky stuff, I just feel like personally, just me personally, I just feel like they're more like celebration kind of things or novelty. Right? See, Auntie knows what's up. Auntie knows. You can smoke out of an apple and it does the same thing. What now? I used to face an ounce in 3 days. Now I can't smoke a joint more than 3 puffs. Dude, I was never that bad, never announced in 3 days, but I once told Paul Zigo my weed consumption, and he flat out didn't believe me. I had to prove it. I had to like prove it by giving him like a month's worth of weed receipts. And I think I did eventually at some point. I don't remember, but anyway, well, I do remember it, but who knows if that's just a made up memory or what. But point is, I used to smoke 4 ounces a month, which is an absurd amount of weed, just like an insane amount of pot. That is like 3.5, no. Yeah, it's like 3.5 grams a day or some shit. It's like an eighth a day. I don't like drinking, but I drink a lot for a while and then quit. Now I get sick as fuck everything I drink. Well, that's good though. It's good, like sobriety has led you to that place. Alcohol, as I understand it, is a particularly cruel mistress. Dude, it was also during COVID times that I hit the height of my weed consumption too. Well, it was during COVID times and then later on in 2021. Honestly, when I got on the road and my, like the earnings I made every day, like, dude, there's a weird thing about being homeless and living in a van and being able to drive all over you kind of can live a life where a lot of your, like, yeah, you're making money every day and spending it every day, and you're relatively fine, and like a lot of it's getting spent on like weed or fucking tobacco or whatever, you know. But I feel like you know what? I feel like dirty kids are a net positive on the economy because you know what? We are contributing to the tax base. And we're honest too, at least most of us. I know when I was flying a sign, my sign always said, out of gas until I would get a fill up, and then I would flip it to in need of weed. COVID times was crazy. I don't know how much I smoked then. I was smoking a lot with friends, TBH. Yeah, me too. Which was weird because the fucking lockdowns and everything. But yeah, um, I don't know. I was smoking with work friends though, and we were all essential workers, so it was like whatever. Us hanging out after work was not really a big deal because we were all gonna be exposed to all the same people anyway. So it's like, fuck it, whatever. We all had to work in close proximity with each other and shit. So it's like, it wasn't like I was like constantly socializing with random new people from all over the neighborhood. But 2020 was a weird year for me. I spent most of the last 3 months of 2020 tripping my ass off on acid. And I spent a profound chunk of the last half of the whole year trying desperately to get on the road, to start traveling. But I didn't own a van yet, and so I didn't know how to get started. I didn't know what I was doing. Yeah, nah, fuck the novelty shit. But I was designated joint roller in my group. I will roll you the ugliest piece of shit looking joint, and I'll be nice and packed and won't track, won't keep up. That's good though. That's what you need. That's what you need. COVID screwed up my 24-hour lifestyle. Screwed up a lot of people. I mean, it completely changed the way society worked. And I mean, it's still that way. Like all these delivery apps that we now take for granted, you guys remember that shit started in the pandemic. It didn't like originally start in the pandemic. Obviously, these ride sharing apps and shit like that had been around for like 10 years before that, but it really took off during the pandemic because suddenly people had to stay home. and they certainly wanted to stay home, and for the most part. And obviously, there were those who didn't, but for the most part, people didn't want to be outside and socializing with people and getting out there and being in public and being around restaurants and bullshit like that. So, nothing open late anymore. Yeah, I know, right? 2 a.m. smoke and go snacking times are over. I know, dude. Like, except in certain cities. There are certain cities where there's still like a 24-hour nightlife, but man, it ain't what it used to be. It just downright is not what it used to be. Like, honestly, if I was, let's say I had plenty of money and shit, had like car of my own, which at this point I don't have, but the money to go spend if I wanted to. If I really wanted to, I think I might be able to find one. Excuse me. God damn. I might be able to find one or two businesses in the town that's like 20 minutes away from me. I might be able to find one or two 24-hour businesses. Neither of them are nice places. Both of them are just gas stations. Neither of them serve hot food or anything like that. Now, in some places, I will tell you that 24-hour nightlife is still a thing. Like when I was living in North Adams, Mass, I me and my roommate at the time tripped our fucking asses off on, I believe it was acid that night. And we walked all over North Adams. We walked all over the Mass Mocha campus, looked up at the tall buildings. I remember thinking at one time that the buildings looked like a divine beast from Zelda. Like they just looked distinctly like that, like they could start moving at any time. Um, but eventually, we started to get hungry and a little thirsty. So we headed back towards the apartment, and then we decided, well, fuck it, we'll just go to Cumbies. And there was Cumbies there. It was like 2:30 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning. Who knows? It was real late, very late at night. But that Cumbies open 24 hours. We were able to get some hot food there and a drink and everything, and it was awesome. Do you think America is still the top superpower in the world? Um, for now, but we're losing. We're losing our place. Good, bad, right, or wrong, regardless of what you think of you know, regardless of what you think of the president or his tendencies, we are clearly losing that battle. But I'll tell you right now, I think that it is a direct result of the Trump administration, so the president, but also all the people he appointed, all the people that were his advisors, all the people that pushed him towards that place, the moneyed interests and the political interests are dead set on a path that, in my opinion, directly leads to our fall from grace as a world superpower. Because the world's nations don't seem to really enjoy the idea of working with an America that is actively trying to take over the world. It's ironic. Our ambitions to recover our position as the world superpower are actually the primary thing driving us away from that position. Did Iran's military get obliterated like Trump said, or no? Not really. They stayed sending drones and missiles. I mean, hell, just a few days before this happened, You guys remember, just like a week before this happened, a jet was shot down in Iran, and they had to do this like Rambo-esque cowboy operation to rescue the downed weapons officer. So how do we know this? Well, I mean, like reporting from the Gulf states is the indicator. The fact that the Gulf states continued to report Iranian drone attacks and Iranian missiles and shit like that, um, all the way up until that shaky ceasefire started, you know, all the way up until that shaky ceasefire started, Iranian attacks continued, and Iran currently maintains control over the Strait of Hormuz, at least according to all the like, according to all the reporting. The rest of the world can comprehend how financially dumb it is for the rescue operation, but we do it to maintain morale of troops and know that nobody's left behind. Yeah, I mean, I don't even disagree with us doing the rescue operation. I mean, that is what we should do. If we didn't do the rescue operation, I think that would just be one more, stain on Trump's legacy, frankly. It's good that they did the rescue operation. They obviously shouldn't be engaging in the war at all. They wouldn't have to do a rescue operation if they weren't engaging in an illegal war of aggression. But hey, since you are, you should probably rescue a downed pilot or weapons officer or whatever. He said they have little missiles left, little drones, no navy, and a scared military. Well, that doesn't seem to be the case, though. Like, from what we can tell, based on all the reporting, Iranian attacks continued right up until that, shaky ceasefire started. And Iran has maintained control over the Strait of Hormuz. They continue to extract tolls. Ships are still expected to work with the IRGC if they are to transit the strait. Traffic has stayed down. Brent crude spot price has remained up. All of these are indicators that the ceasefire is not real and that Iran's military is not, in fact, destroyed. That their military might remains, at least somewhat uncompromised. Israel then immediately broke the supposedly two-sided ceasefire. Yes, that is true. That is true. That is true. That is very true. Oh, I wish I had more. Well, you know. You know. Maybe I need a tolerance break, though. Maybe that's for the best. Maybe if I don't go into it thinking it's going to suck, maybe it won't. I do know this. When I'm able to stay productive, that helps a lot when I don't have weed. Thank you, King Bugs, for the additional $50. Holy shit, look at that. Dude, sometimes I wish I didn't get paid from YouTube only once a month. I wish you could split that into 2 payments a month. That'd be nice. Maybe I can. I haven't looked into that, but maybe I can. I don't know. Anyway, thank you, King Bugs, for the $50. I appreciate it a ton. You are literally the most generous person that has ever donated to my channel, and I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. You guys are helping me build myself into a real content creator. It's fucking crazy. And I keep thinking about something that somebody said to me the other day. Was it Margot or Nanbot or King Bugs? I don't remember. Maybe Johnny? I can't remember who it was. It was one of the regulars. They said, what if you lose some of that je ne sais quoi with the upgrades? And I'm like, So I'm preserving that. Whatever upgrades I make, it will be in furtherance of enriching what you guys already like out of this channel. Those of you who enjoy my channel, because there's quite a few of you in here right now. What do you like about this place? Like, what do you like about these streams? What do you like about me as a content creator? Bugs casually spins a band. Bugs, look, that's why I'm constantly fucking, stroking him off in here because he's awesome. He's like a tremendous benefactor to the channel. Your honesty. Je ne sais quoi is one of my favorite sayings, so that sounds like me. I believe it was you, actually. Auntie says your honesty. You think Iran will keep the Middle East in check? And they seem to be trying their best. They seem to be. Chill vibes, trolling MAGA, anarchy, guitar times. Okay. We're getting a sense for things. We'll get back to the Iran topic in a minute, Philly Matt. I'm doing an audience poll right now. You're funny, honest, thick-skinned, smart, interesting takes, good argumentation. Open discussion, not auto-hate USA, a very welcoming to all non-trolls and discussions. Yeah, see? So what I'm getting here is that you guys like that this channel is unpretentious, open to discussion, honest about its biases, my biases. You guys like the fact that I say what I think and that I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong or don't know. And a recurrent theme is this chill vibes thing, which some of it I think is the production quality, and I think some of it's just my attitude. I think that I can keep the production quality aspects by improving the phone I have, and therefore improving the microphone and camera that I'm using, and probably by eventually upgrading either this office out here into a fully fledged, fully insulated and fixed up office where I've got like a proper studio, where I can do these vertical streams or do the computer streams either way. There's a number of aesthetic changes I can make to preserve that, but that tells me a lot. As far as my attitude, I don't really think any of the upgrades will make me lose that. But I think to what degree I upgrade this channel, it'll be with that in mind. Phoebe stream's very unique and interesting, not gonna lie, but the best thing is how interactive she is. Yeah, see, there you go. That's another thing that I think I will always preserve going forward. I really like being interactive with the chat when I'm doing a stream. I think it's fun. And I think that I could increase that even further with, further equipment upgrades and stuff like that. And equipment upgrades might mean more, like set upgrades, for example, might mean that instead of me having to go all the way down to like the fire pit that's inside the pasture, maybe I get me one of those little portable fire pits that I can just set out pretty much anywhere. And I clear me off a spot near up here where I've got like a proper sitting area that looks nice in the daytime and everything, but can also be used for me to stream at and hang out at night. Yeah, your engagement is a big ticket for sure. Well, I'm glad that you guys appreciate that. It is meant to be like an engagement focused stream. It's meant to be a participatory environment where people are invited to be part of the discussion with me. So I'm glad you guys pick up on that. Informative? Fuck yeah. Well, that's never going to go away unless I become a real dumbass at some point. Right now, I'm only kind of a dumbass. No. Yep. This pipe is officially out of resin. I don't think it's actually out of resin, but I'm going to have to scrape this fucker for a while or before I get more good out of it. Your mods are cool too. Like I said, a very unique stream. Not many like it. Well, that is definitely true. That is definitely true. There's not a whole lot of streams left like this for sure. Kind of a dying format, really. But I'm glad that my channel's been growing because maybe that signifies a return to the format. Maybe that signifies a return to the idea of people sitting around talking to their chats specifically, having a conversation pretty much with just them. Because, like, it's been a thing for a long time, fell out of favor for a while. People have been wanting more of those, like, structured streams that I do sometimes. Not me personally, I'm just saying, like, that format of stream. But it seems like this is seeing a real resurgence over the last year or two. I do like more structured content normally, but I like the cut of your jib. That makes me really happy. I've got a charm that bleeds through into even other communities and other interests. When I join your stream, I'll make sure to smoke up too. I just got the cigar pack too. Ah, yes. That's so awesome. That's so cool. That's so dope. I got an awesome community. Anyway, I did tell Philly Matt that we would get back on the Iran topic. So here's why I think Iran will and has been keeping the Middle East in check since the beginning of this conflict. You will notice that none of these Gulf states have launched counterattacks against Iran. Israel and the U.S. are the aggressors in this conflict, and Iran has been incredibly skilled at maintaining control over the Strait of Hormuz, which is really all they need to, as far as I can tell, really that's all they need to do to keep a stranglehold on the situation. And with that pressure, they can cause enough economic damage and put enough pressure on the United States from the international community and everything else to force the United States to um, to rein in Israel, basically, to make it so that they can't keep attacking their neighbors, to make it so that they can't keep attacking people, like all this other shit. Done. None of it. And they are, to this day, holding the cards on that. And I think as long as Iran maintains control over that Strait of Hormuz, they are going to remain in the position to be able to right the American wrongs that have occurred over the last 70 years in the Middle East. I think that they feel like doing so is life or death for them because the U.S. has been gunning for their government and control over Iran since 1979. So I think that Iran at this point looks at driving out the U.S. to the greatest extent that they can, and at the very least making the U.S. rein in Israel and rein in its imperialist visions in that region. I think they look at it as a matter of survival. If they don't do that, they will be gone. And I can't say I blame them. Iran is a big country with a lot of influence, not very easy to beat. Yeah, exactly. It just does not seem like it's going to be very easy for us to get a lot of headway in actually defeating them. Even if we were able to open up control of the Strait of Hormuz, we would still see a lot of international pressure because Iran is a fully developed nation with lots of mineral resources and oil and shit like that that other countries are reliant on, that they are not going to want to see fall to America and further cement America's position. Bus drivers are some of the best people. Some of us are. Some of us are bitter, jaded assholes with a grudge against the homeless. Unfortunately, yeah. But based on the way you talk, I don't think you are. It doesn't sound like you're one of those people. Sounds like you're one of those people that treats people with love and kindness. Phoebe tolerates me being an insane person in chat, so I like her. I mean, maybe it sounds bad, but a lot of times your insanity in my chat makes me giggle. I don't know. I see a kinship. I'm like, yes, my variety of insanity. Perfect. Well, if the Democrats aren't good and the Republicans are starting to fall again, where do we go from here? I think it might be time for the American people to really look at a third party. Genuinely. A third party or an independent movement might be our only option at this point. Jesus, I'm too high to type right now. I'm so jealous, Stan. I'm so fucking jealous. Insurance risk is the only reason why the strait is closed, not a traditional blockade by any means. Well, yeah, but that insurance risk exists because there's a very real risk of the IRGC, mining the strait. Like from what we didn't they already mine the strait? Like we claimed that we cleaned the mines up, but what if we didn't? I don't know. The fact that that insurance risk exists, that's enough leverage in itself. It's almost like it's actually beneficial for the Iranian position, in my opinion, that that's true, Joey. It seems like it's beneficial to the Iranian position because they don't actually have to demonstrate the military might to be able to stop passage through the strait. They just have to demonstrate the willingness to try. And they have. They've set a couple of tankers on fire, They've destroyed some ships in the Persian Gulf, and they've destroyed some facilities and shit. So they've showed a capacity and an ability to attack large targets, and just that by itself, just that possibility, from my perspective, it seems like that possibility alone is enough to make these insurance companies like, no, we don't want to do that. Nope, sorry, can't let you transit through the street while there's an active war going on. And it makes sense because, well, like I said, missiles, drones, etc. Seems like they're pretty good at attacking large targets. I do love when I get you to crack up. That old lady shit the other day was the funniest fucking thing I've ever read. I'm the nice bus driver, but the dark truth is I'm just lazy and don't want conflict in my day. I still get frustrated / annoyed with the folks on my bus. I just maintain my urges to be a shitty old asshole. Well, that is still something. That's still something, honestly, because I think it is better to be accidentally compassionate through laziness than it is to be purposefully mean through willful obeisance of all regulations. Oh. The harassing old lady shit was ruthlessly funny. It really was. Mm. Honestly, I worked in a grocery store for 10 years before becoming a driver. Public transit is easy mode compared to retail. Well, I will tell you this. as a retail worker myself, well, I don't work in it anymore, but as someone who used to work in retail, it is hell. The more front-facing you are, the worse it is. But even me as a stalker, I hated having to work in the daytime. I can't wait for grad school to whisk me away from working with the public. Dude, I can't wait for that too, Margot. I'm so happy for you. America has targeted hospitals since Iraq. Israel didn't start that practice. That's true. There is a fight breaking out next to my car. Another one? Another one. Dude, Margot, where the fuck do you be parking? Bro, you gotta find you like an abandoned, well, not an abandoned mall. They usually police those. God damn it. You gotta find, man, I don't know. Girl, that shit worries me. Man, I don't know what to say about that one. I park next to a bar. Okay. I get it. I get it. But what if, hear me out. What if there's like a Walmart near you? Is that a possibility? Because sometimes you can get away with parking overnight there, even if it was just a couple nights a week, you know? Of course, then again, maybe your current location confers other benefits. You can, like, get out and use the bathroom if you need to, maybe. I don't know. I guess I get it. I know the owner well. Police patrol the Walmart. God damn it, that sucks. All the old haunts are fucking policed now. Property is theft until the thieves are away. If you did this in a month, we'd be arrested and detained for dragging all our brains beyond the barbed wire chain and drinking on private land. Yeah. No, that sucks. I mean, it is, like, honestly, if I were in your position, I'd be like, nah, the bar is fine. It just sucks that I have to deal with these fights every so often. Because being somewhere where the owner knows you and they're cool with you and everything else is, like, a huge benefit. And Target and the Planet Fitness, oddly enough, that is so fucking weird. God, that's weird. I hate that shit. I hate that shit. Sometimes I wonder what it would be like if I went back on the road. Like, if I had to, for some reason, go back on the road the way I used to live. The way you're living right now, basically. But I was traveling, man. Wonder how shit has changed. Too bad I'm no chud. That is true. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get off here. Thank you guys for hanging out with me, as always. But I need to go to bed. So I will see you guys later. Thank you guys for hanging out. Peace. Bye.